ASMR. ASMR. Put your ears on. Snowman. ASMR. Mission Control. ASMR. 10-4. Good buddy. We got a convoy. Just kidding. No, we're not doing ASMR. I don't know what actually is ASMR. I don't know. I just know it's people whispering really close to the camera. Something about it cracks me up. But if you're like me, you like Southern rock. I like Southern rock. I like classic rock. I like music of the great era of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I'll kind of lump those all together. Southern rock was great music. And we're going to make a little list of the 10 Southern rock songs we should remember. 10 Southern rock songs to remember. And these are going to be songs that you have heard, but they'll also be songs you haven't maybe heard in a long time. And when I put this list together, I thought, I don't know if I've heard that in 30 years, literally. Maybe even 40 in some cases. But there's songs that were pretty familiar, and if you like good music, I'm sure you'll know most of these, if not all of them. But I didn't put Freebird or Sweet Home Alabama or Jessica or Ramblin' Man or Sweet Melissa or some of the ones we always hear on the list. And I tried to think of some songs that were really good that maybe we haven't heard as much lately. So Southern rock to remember. Remembering is a hard thing, everybody. Class, it's a hard thing. Number one is Heard It in a Love Song by Marshall Tucker, 1977, off Carolina Dreams. That was written of course, by Toy Caldwell, who was a great Southern rocker. Right up there with Greg Allman and Ronnie Van Zant, and he was great. When I was growing up, Marshall Tucker was a pretty popular band. I mean, they were not obscure by any means, but now that I think about it, maybe the only song I ever really knew was "Can't You See What That Woman Has Done to Me?" And actually, the one I used to play a lot was the song I got good things worry on my brain, but I never did sing that song, and I certainly wouldn't want to sing it today. But that was a great one, and that was, I think, a lot of Toy Caldwell on guitar. It was just really good. And the other song that I thought about putting on this list, it was kind of either Heard It in a Love Song, because I didn't want to put Can't You See. I feel like that kind of is in the Freebird category. But the other one I thought about putting on this list was Fire on the Mountain. I don't know the words. And by the way, that E minor to C, that's a great Southern rock, I guess country too, but it's a great E minor to C is a great Southern rock chord change. Gives you that kind of I don't know the words. Fire on the mountain, lightning in the air, holding them hills, and it's waiting for me there. Yeah, that's a good one. I couldn't decide whether to put Heard It in a Love Song or Fire on the Mountain on there. Maybe they're both great songs. But Marshall Tucker and R.I.P. Toy Caldwell and any of the other members. Marshall Tucker is a little bit like some of these bands on here. You'll still see them around playing, and it's like nobody. Toy Caldwell's been gone for 30 years or something like that. So, and one of the guys that played in them actually is from around here. His name is Chris Hicks. Coming in at number 7. see, rich girl wants to marry and a poor girl wants to work. You know, nowadays I think it's the opposite. A poor girl wants to marry and a rich girl wants to work. A rich girl wants to marry and a poor girl wants to work. Rich man goes to college and a poor man goes to work. Drunkard wants another hit of wine. Politician wants your vote. I don't want any of these things, but I will take another beep, 'cause I ain't asking nobody for nothing. I can get it on my own. Got that kind of old, sounds like, could be a Hank Williams Jr. type song. If you don't like the way I'm living, you just leave this long-haired country boy alone. That's a great song. And Charlie Daniels was great. And R.I.P., by the way. You know, he was one of those people, I think, that was a lot smarter. You know, I think he came from good old North Carolina stock, and he had even kind of a scholarly, in a homespun way. I saw him do a lot of poetry one time, and they published it in the Chronicle of Higher Education. It was like doggerel. It's almost like kind of a old Elizabethan doggerel or something, a big long. And he was kind of making fun of people. It was sort of political, and some people didn't like it, but it was very clever, a very clever wordsmith. But that Charlie Daniels was great. And, of course, he was Southern rock. The South's going to do it again. Hang on to your Confederate money and, you know, all those good songs he did. And, of course, The Devil Went Down to Georgia. That's another one I'd kind of put there in the Freebird category. Long-Haired Country Boy is a really good song. Let's see, that was done in 1974 on the album Fire on the Mountain. And but it's a great song. I think in later years he changed some of the kind of hippie, but also kind of the rednecky parts of some of his lyrics. He was kind of about 50% hippie, about 50% redneck. And but I saw him, and when he did Long-Haired Country Boy, he changed the lyrics. I saw him at the wasn't Michigan State Fair, but it was in East Lansing. And it was the Michigan Fest, which was kind of like it was kind of like a Michigan State Fair, only that the Michigan State Fair is usually in Detroit. So this was kind of in the Lansing area. Coming in at number 6, the Outlaws. There goes another love song, 1970. Someone's singing about me again. And it's got that nice little, it's in the key of G, which is a good country key. And, you know, and it's not like G way up here. It's good old country G with electric guitars, and that gives it that country rock, southern rock sound. G to F. And it's got that little kind of hammer on it. And that guitar player does a lot of... He does a lot of those kind of almost acoustic guitar-y type flat picking runs on that one, but it's a great song. And I saw the Outlaws, too. I saw them warm up for the Allman Brothers in the early 80s in Ann Arbor, Michigan. But I also like Hurry Sundown, Green Grass, and High Tides Forever, and they did all those songs when I saw them. By the way, how good were the Allman Brothers back then? I mean, my memory of them is just outstanding in that period. You had Dickie Betts, and I believe Dangerous Dan Toller was in that band at that time, if I'm not mistaken. Just a super good band. But the Outlaws, and you know, I wanted to say, I actually know someone who played in the Outlaws in the early 90s. Of course, the Outlaws have had a bunch of deaths, but they still play. The Huey Thomason is kind of the founding member, the main guitar player. And I think they had Freddie Salem, and he died quite a few years ago. And I've got some Outlaws albums back there. I didn't try to find him. But I know a guy that played and did 2 world tours with the Outlaws. And his name is Tim Cabe, C-A-B-E. And he's an excellent rock guitar player, very well schooled in all the songs and like classic rock riffs. You ought to hear him do like Zeppelin and and all the keys and everything. But he was in the Outlaws, and he played on that Hitting the Road Live. It's an early '90s Outlaws album. And the other guy that was on that album is another guy from around here named Chris Hicks, who was also in Marshall Tucker. But that Tim Cabe's an excellent guitar player, I think. So he was with the Outlaws for a little while. This would be in the early '90s, and now he's in an Aerosmith tribute band. I believe they're called Pandora's Box, and I think they're a pretty nationally recognized Aerosmith tribute band. Coming in at number 5, see if you know this one. Hard to play on acoustic. Then I'll just sing it. Guitar play in the dead of night, sing so blue and sound so right. I'm homesick, homesick by the Atlanta Rhythm Section. Where were you in '69? Smoking dope and drinking wine. Just an outlaw. There it goes. But I used to play that song a lot, and that's an Atlanta Rhythm Section song. And I guess today when you hear the Atlanta Rhythm Section, you usually hear So Into You, Imaginary Lover. But that was, Homesick was another good one. And another good one they did was Not Gonna Let It Bother Me Tonight. But they're another band from around here, so I'm always running into people that knew the Outlaw or the Atlanta Rhythm Section. And I actually played once with Barry Bailey at this July 4th thing, or he was there, and we did So Into You. And I've actually played with J.R. Cobb, who was a great songwriter, and he was in a group called the Classics 4, J.R. Cobb, and then he joined the Atlanta Rhythm Section. He's one of the co-writers of that song, Homesick. And J.R. Cobb also wrote Spooky in the Cool of the Evening, everything's getting kind of spooky. Let's see. What is it? Cool of the evening, everything is getting kind of groovy. Spooky. And I've actually met J.R. Cobb a couple times and played with him a couple times. I played at 2 different benefit events with J.R. Cobb, and he was kind of the featured, guy that came out, and we were kind of the band that backed him. But that was great, and we actually did Spooky. But then I also had him come out to our church. I'm a music minister, and he's a man of faith, or he was. He passed away, unfortunately. So he came out to our church one Sunday with the little trio he had and did like Mansion on the Hilltop, some songs like that, and a really, really fine guitar player, J.R. Cobb. And I just wanted to give a little tribute to J.R. Cobb, because the other song that he wrote, and I hope he was just a good songwriter. He told me he got that Spooky out of an old Mel Bay book. You know those old Mel Bay guitar lesson books? And that's what he told me. And that's one of those ones, once you get the riff going and the beat, it sounds so good, and it just kind of plays itself. But he, the other thing that he was in a group called the Classics 4, you might know. But J.R. Cobb wrote Faded Photographs, the Classics 4, covered now with lines and spaces, tickets torn in half, memories and bits and pieces, traces of love long ago. Let's see, go. Traces of love. I'm gonna embarrass myself. It's a well done song. You gotta either spend some time and get those chords right. But that's Traces of Love. It was sung by Dennis Yost. That's also by J.R. Cobb, the man that wrote Homesick, the man that wrote Spooky. And I think that Traces of Love is just a great song. That was Classics 4, and that J.R. Cobb he wasn't a flashy guitar player. Like I actually played with him a couple times, and I don't know if he maybe took a little solo. He wasn't interested in, but he just was real solid. I played with a couple people like that were well known, and they were all kind of like that. He's real solid, and, but R.I.P. Jared Cobb and that song "Homesick" in the Atlanta Rhythm section. That whole band's pretty much dead, I think. But they're still around. Some of their members enough to keep going. But you look at the classic lineup, and they're almost all gone, I think. Coming in at are we at number 5, 4, 9, 8, 7, 6? Coming in at number 5, Whiskey Man by Molly Hatchet. I wanted to get a Molly Hatchet song in there. I thought about Flirting with Disaster. And the other Molly Hatchet song I actually know the best, because I used to play it in that same band that did Homesick, was their version of All Over Now by the Stones. Because I used to love her, but it's all over now. Because I used to love her, but it's all over now. Well, baby used to stay out all night long. You made me cry, But that's a good, and they do it pretty different than the Stones. They do a pretty juiced up rock version of it. But Molly Hatchet was great. And I actually saw the singer on that was Danny Joe Brown. And I actually I don't know that much about Molly Hatchet, but I do remember when Flirting with Disaster was really around. And they were in the late 70s, early 80s. They were kind of one of the main Southern rock bands, I would say. But their singer was Danny Joe Brown. And I did get to see Danny Joe Brown at the Toledo Speedway Jam. I'm going to say 82 or 83. And he warmed up for Foghat and then REO Speedwagon. And I don't remember that much about the show. And Molly Hatchet didn't seem to be emphasized. I think they did Flirting with Disaster out there because he was out of Molly Hatchet, but those were songs that were known. And they had two great guitar players. That's what I kind of remember about the show. I mean, it was Southern rock, and they were taking like kind of harmonized good Southern rock type leads, and so it was a good show. I just also wanted to say that Toledo Speedway Jam, I looked up Foghat Toledo Speedway Jam, and there's a YouTube video of Foghat playing that, and I'm pretty sure I'm in it. I mean, I'm in. You can see the whole crowd, and I was kind of down by the front, and I'm pretty sure I'm in that video. I think I can see which one I am. And if I'm wrong, I'm in that vicinity. I mean, you can see all the people. It's hard to make their faces out. Coming in at number 4 is a great song. I don't know that much about the band, but I decided this should be on the list. Jackie Blue by the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, 1975. I'm not trying, I apologize. I'm not trying to sing these. This is not a performance. It's embarrassing. But I just kind of wanted to demonstrate, show you how they went a little bit. Baby, Jackie Blue. That's it. What's really cool about this one, everybody, is it goes from E flat minor to A flat minor for that baby Jackie, and that's kind of got that mystical mountainy sound. And then it goes to G, and it kind of picks up. Let's see. But you like your style. You'll take an inch, but you love a mile. Then, see, those are cool chords. I would never think of those chords. And I think that shows how good the songwriting was on a lot of those FM radio-friendly classic rock songs, because that's it's very good songwriting. It's done very well. It's almost like a studio. It's got good guitars in it, and it's all really tasteful stuff too. It's not like Woodstock 20-minute stuff. It's really, but it goes from E flat to E flat minor to A flat minor, E flat minor, and then it goes to G, which. See, that's someone. It's not contrived. So we all, we all can think of songs where it's contrived. You're trying to think of something a little out of the box, and then you end up with something contrived. It's very natural, feels good, but it's not a pattern I would think of. E flat. Just a terrific song. Just screams mid-70s. And I'm going to call Ozark Mountain Daredevils class or Southern rock. I thought about it. I don't know. They sound a little bit like 10cc or Ace or one of those kind of a little bit lighter FM rock bands. But I'm going to call them Southern rock because I think they did do Southern rock. That's a Southern, kind of like Atlanta rhythm sections like that. They're a little too smooth to, but because they were just so good, they played really smooth. Those are all studio players. All right, coming in at number 3, Blackfoot, Train, which I believe is 1979. Oh, train, take me on out of this town. Train, take me on out of this town. And that's a terrific song by Blackfoot. And I saw Blackfoot at the Pontiac Silverdome, and I mentioned them in that video I did a couple weeks ago, top 10 radio-friendly songs. The song I really like by Blackfoot is Highway Song. Another day, another dollar. That's a great one, but I did bring that one up in that other video. So Train is a good one. And when I saw them at the Pontiac Silverdome, this would be like 1980 or 1979 maybe. I think it was maybe I have to check, but it might have been the December of 79. But it was about 10 days after the Who in Cincinnati was doing a sound check, and before their concert in Cincinnati, it was the same tour, and there were like 11 kids were stampeded to death. And I remember I went out on the main floor of the Pontiac Silverdome, and I don't think that's where my tickets were. They were letting kids out on that main floor, and it was just jam-packed. You were like this. I talk about this in that other video too, but you were like this. And at the time, and it was time, and I mean, if you had to go to the bathroom or excuse yourself, or you couldn't lift your arms up over your head, and it was, I saw the concert. I watched it like this for an hour and a half or whatever the show was. But now that I think about it, man, that was dangerous, and I'm pretty sure they don't seat any concerts like that anymore. And but boy, Blackfoot got out there on the other hand and was great, and I was right up there by them because my seats were kind of in the nosebleed sections, and I was able to get up there. They let me up there, and another guy, and we just watched them, and they were great. But boy, now that I'm older, I realize that was pretty dangerous. And I also met Pete Townsend after that concert. Coming in at number 2, well, we had to get some of their songs, didn't we? And I tried to think of one that everybody knows, everybody likes, but maybe you haven't heard in a while. It's "Play Me a Song, Curtis Low, Curtis Low. I got your drinking money, tune up your banjo. People say you're useless, but those people are fools. 'Cause Curtis, you're the finest picker to ever play the blues." but that's a great song. And there, I didn't want to put Freebird. I didn't want to put Sweet Home Alabama. And I went through a lot of those Skynyrd songs that everybody knows, but you maybe haven't heard in a while. I thought of Simple Man, but actually, Simple Man's actually been on some commercials and things. Tuesday's Gone, and there are so many. Then you start getting to Call Me the Breeze, and there are a lot of good ones. But the one I thought, and there's some you maybe don't hear too much or never did, like Working for MCA or South. Was it South Country Jukin', Down South Jukin'? But I thought, Curtis Lowe, that was a song you heard a lot, and I don't think they ever played it live. Maybe once or twice, and probably because you needed like a dobro and everything, and they weren't really set up for it live. All right, number 10, and I'm not going to try to play any of this one, or number 1. This is number 1. The number 1 Southern rock song of all time. So we did 10 through 1. So, we went 10, 9, 8, 7. So it was a countdown. Number 1, the greatest Southern rock song of all time that we should remember, that I bet you haven't heard in years, probably. The 44-minute long epic Mountain Jam off Eat a Peach, which was from their Fillmore East recordings, and they did live at Fillmore East. And then, but this was another Fillmore East period recording. 44 minutes. It's based on Donovan's "First There Is a Mountain." First there is a mountain, and that's just great. Now I'm just warning you to listen to it properly. You need a beanbag chair, a black light, a lava lamp, some headphones, couple friends around. I don't know anything else you can think of. 44 minutes. The other thing about Mountain Jam is just a big long improvisation. It's not even they take that little theme from the Donovan song, "First There Is a Mountain," and then they just go and they all have their kind of time to improvise. And there've been several discussions lately, should you use backing tracks? And I'm not big on backing. I'm a hypocrite because I use them all the time in here, just in this room, and they're fun and everything. So I guess I'm a hypocrite. I see why people like them. I do too. But to really play seriously, I said you shouldn't use backing tracks. And there were quite a few people that I like and respect that said, no, like if you're playing like in a restaurant or a show or a club or something, go ahead and use backing tracks. And I said, no, don't use backing tracks. But one of my examples was Mountain Jam, because I'm pretty sure you can't play Mountain Jam 44-minute long version to a backing track. And if they ever came up with the backing track so you could play like the whole Duane Allman solo to a backing track, it would probably be one of the lamest things ever, both musically and philosophically. I think Duane Allman would roll over in his grave if you tried to play all that note for note, maybe, because the whole idea of it is in the moment, and I think the Allman Brothers, they used to play till 4 or 5 in the morning at some of those shows, different time. I don't know if you can even get away with that now. All the corporate interests and security, the war on drugs, all the cops and everything, and the curfews, a lot of these shows. But the Allman Brothers, they used to just play till like 4 and 5 in the morning, started, probably they got started late, but they'd play, from 11 to like 5 a.m. And that Mountain Jam is just epic. And like I said, you've got to listen to it with some headphones and beanbag chair and a lava lamp and a black light, maybe with a few black light posters, and enjoy. Well, anyway, I wanted to share those songs. I think I embarrassed myself a little bit on these because I play Southern rock. I mean, I know Southern rock, and I've played lead guitar in Southern rock quite a few, fair amount. So, but those are great songs, and the one I was kind of impressed when I looked at it a little more closely was that Jackie Blue. It's a really kind of clever, cool song, kind of out of the box, and yet not contrived. That's a hard thing to do. But Southern rock to remember. Sometimes there are songs we always hear, but if you're my age, you probably grew up with a lot of songs that you used to always hear and now you never hear. And somewhere in between used to always hear and now you never hear is a happy medium where some of these great songs, I don't think, at least some of those songs I haven't heard in ages. And they're readily available now on YouTube, thank goodness, but they're worth remembering, and to younger people to learn these songs and teach them and keep that great Southern rock legacy going. Thanks, everybody. God bless. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to you and yours.